Coming up on the Angle Show, we're talking about a massive CM Punk update, also WWE contracts expiring, and we got to talk about SmackDown potentially leaving Fox. All right, y'all, we're back. We're going to kick things off with some CM Punk news. This is actually a lot bigger because it seems like there's some clarification on what's happening with Punk. So Dave Meltzer was talking about this, and obviously, as you guys know, we say take everything with a grain of salt. But this is actually very interesting considering the fact that it was made very clear that CM Punk was terminated from an employment contract as well as a performer contract. Now, for a while, a lot of people were speculating what is CM Punk's actual duties with AEW. And this is just mostly speculation, but Dave Meltzer did come out and note that CM Punk was working with AEW in terms of creative for the Saturday Night Collision show. On top of that, nobody really knows if CM Punk actually has a non-compete clause. Technically speaking, in the industry, if somebody gets released or whatever it may be, you know, in the WWE, you get released, it's a 90-day non-compete clause. If it is a release due to a cause, right, kind of similar to what CM Punk is, then in the WWE, you would typically see a non-compete clause for a year. Now, in AEW, Meltzer is actually basically just saying that they're under the assumption that he is completely a free agent moving forward. So a lot of people were wondering in my previous videos, is this a situation where AEW could prevent CM Punk from moving to WWE, Impact, New Japan, whatever it may be? And if we're going off of this specific report, it sounds like that may actually not be a concern. Now, he also did mention that we shouldn't rule out the idea of AEW bringing CM Punk back. And I could totally understand why that would make a lot of sense, right? If you're Tony Khan, CM Punk is a big draw. He's been a big help to the business. But at this point, there's been two scenarios. Regardless if you're Team AEW or Team CM Punk, there's a lot of talk about morale getting better. It's time for them to move on. I personally wouldn't want to see that happen. At this point, AEW needs to get back to its roots. They need to get back to what they promised the fans that they would be. And it's really important that they really uphold that. And, you know, the thing is, if they brought back CM Punk, I just don't think it's a good look for them at this point to suspend him, then to terminate him, and then to bring him back. It's just like, how many more chances? How many times are you going to do this? I just think it shouldn't be a revolving door. That's my belief. I think it's a weird situation for them to be in to begin with. CM Punk could go elsewhere. Let AEW focus on what matters, and that is producing the best show. And, you know, the other day there was talks about talent feeling like a cloud, a dark cloud, has been removed from above their heads. And if that's the case, if that's how the people are feeling, it is time for them to move on. And most importantly, if you're AEW, create your next CM Punk, right? I know it's easy to sign somebody from another company, but develop your own talent. Give these guys a shot. Look at what Bryan Danielson and Ricky Starks did. I mean, it was incredible. Let that be the new thing. Like, keep putting people out there. Keep giving them the spotlight. Give people chances, and you'll see it pay off. Guys, we talked a little bit about LA Knight getting a massive extension. We talked a little bit about Drew McIntyre and his contract situation. There is an update to that. So apparently WWE has they've extended Drew McIntyre's contract until WrestleMania. This is due to the fact that he missed time. But now also there is a lot of talk about several contracts coming up. And the reason why this is such an interesting story is that we know there's a lot of notable names. So obviously LA Knight, he's getting this massive push. Drew McIntyre has been extended till WrestleMania, which buys WWE some time. But the reality here is that WWE has a lot of talent contracts coming up. We know it's inevitable. People will leave, right? We know this. It's not, WWE is not the end all be all of pro wrestling, because now there's other companies where they're making money. They can pay good contracts. Now, obviously, I think creative does have I think creative is definitely a factor for talent. You definitely have to consider that. You know, if you're a wrestler and you want to be on TV, you obviously want to be doing some cool stuff on television. But at the end of the day, it is a job. I know wrestling fans have a hard time deciphering this. But talent sometimes, dude, they just want to get paid. And they want to be taken care of, and they want to be healthy, and they want to provide for their families. The good news is there's a lot of companies that will allow them to do that as well. So I think it's very easy for us to assume that talent will, in fact, be leaving WWE at some point. Do I think it's going to be Drew McIntyre? No, we talked about it the other day. Drew McIntyre doesn't really see himself leaving. At least that's what he's saying, right? So there's other talent that their contracts are coming up. WWE is trying to secure them, but we have to factor in Endeavor. The merger closes next week on Tuesday, September 12th, and the reality is UFC doesn't retain a lot of their top talent. We saw Francis Ngannou leave. Now he's doing some stuff outside of the UFC, and we see him fighting Tyson Fury very soon. The reality is, we don't know if Endeavor is going to be keeping the big names. We don't know if they're going to try and retain absolutely everybody. I think there is a clear difference with how WWE monetizes their talent and the way UFC monetizes their talent. But at the end of the day, I can see Endeavor's influence saying, look, we love Edge. If Edge doesn't want to be here, we're not going to fight to keep Edge. And that's just a hypothetical. That's just me, using an example. But that could always be a possibility. So it's going to be something to pay attention to. Obviously, for all contract stuff, once we get more information on who's leaving, who's staying, I'll keep you guys in the mix. So make sure you guys subscribe. And that brings us to our final story of today's video, guys. We got to talk about WWE on Fox. We know that WWE's outside of the exclusive period for negotiating their TV deals with Fox and NBC. And look, there's a lot of speculation here. For those who don't know, Fox recently... They got some stuff brewing. So here's the thing. Ryan Satin had a podcast with Fox. Now, Ryan Satin on social media had confirmed that it was a mutual decision between he and Fox that they end the Out of Character podcast. Now, the thing about the Out of Character podcast was this is basically WWE talent out of character with Ryan Satin. It was a podcast. It's weekly programming through Fox. And then a lot of people were talking about this. A lot of people were speculating that this podcast being ended has a lot to do with the fact that WWE may not be staying on Fox. There's a lot of rumors, a lot of speculation that WWE and Fox might not come to terms on a new deal. For a while, we talked about this on the channel, I want to say like 8 to 9 months ago. There was even some rumors at the time that Fox wasn't actually profitable with WWE programming. And that could always be the case as well. WWE was paid a very, very, very hefty fee for the rights. And obviously, if you're Fox, you got a lot of stuff to look at. And here's the thing, guys. WWE, AEW, all these companies, they're providing good entertainment. They're providing good numbers. But you got to look at CPMs for the advertisers. You got to look at a lot more than just this is the number of viewers, right? So the big thing that you also have to keep in mind is other sports entities. For example, there's rumors that NBC could be very interested in bringing in basketball, right? If they brought in NBA again and they secure those rights, that could be a massive win for NBC. But where does that put Comcast, right? Where does that put NBC Universal when it comes to retaining WWE? So I know a lot of people are speculating. I know Meltzer, and all them, they're speculating that the Fox Out of Character podcast ending could be a sign that, WWE and Fox are done. But you got to look at it from a commitment standpoint too. I think Ryan Satin, he said it best, right? Like he wants to explore other things, and that's cool. It was a mutual thing. But you have to wonder on the Fox side of things, do they want the podcast? Do they want WWE programming? Do I think it's a big loss for WWE to lose Fox? No, personally, I don't. If I had it my way, I would prefer to see WWE SmackDown on NBC, primetime. I would love to see Raw on USA. There's a lot of things that can happen here. I'll keep you guys updated, but don't be surprised. I'm just saying, don't be surprised if you see new television distributors for WWE in the future. I think that's a very, very, very big thing that could be possible. And like I said, you got to pay attention to the other trends in the market, because maybe Fox wants, NBA, maybe they want, whatever. There's so many other entities where TV contracts are coming up. You never know. Fox lost UFC, and now look at UFC. It's on ESPN Plus. It's on ESPN 1 and 2 and whatever. So there's a lot of things there that could happen. I'm predicting that either WWE goes all in with NBC, or we see WWE move SmackDown to ESPN, ABC, FX, one of those entities. And that obviously could be arranged through Endeavor. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below.